Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 6 of Chainsaw Man. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So last we left off, things were starting to get kinda spooky. Denji and company decided to investigate this hotel because there was some sort of devil activity going on and it might lend a lead to the gun devil. But in investigating, they seem to have stumbled upon something real weird, No matter what they do, they seem to be unable to get off the 8th floor of the hotel. Now, it is notable that most people seem to sort of take this rather phlegmatically. Kobeni obviously is distraught, and, how can you blame her, really? Like, this is some real freaky stuff, but Kobeni's not exactly what you'd call mentally fortified. She's kind of like a weak-willed person, and she gets sort of ruffled by stuff rather easily. It's not like any of the real spooky stuff has started happening yet. Sure, they're still, on the same floor and everything, but it's not like they've been trapped here for hours or days or anything. So at this point, everybody just seems to be sort of biding their time, I guess if there's really nothing they can do to evade the 8th floor, then, you can really only wait until a devil shows up so they can do something meaningful. I do find it interesting that, perhaps everything is Power's fault, and, despite her sort of taking the initiative to kill that little devil from before, she's not willing to sort of admit that she basically doomed everyone to sit in this hotel. I mean, it seems like this might in fact be the case, that little devil was trapping them there, and now that he's dead, he can't... I don't know what you'd call it, lift this curse or what have you. I also find it rather interesting that everybody's sort of fairly calm about all of this, whereas Kobeni's freaking out. I mean, this is definitely a situation where, it would be understandable for somebody to freak out. Man, I guess I guess that makes a little bit more sense why Kobeni's so unhappy about all of this, given what her other options were. But at the same time, freaking out isn't going to get you out of the hotel. It's better to sort of think productively, try and find some way to get out of here rather than immediately despair about it. It's probably got to be rather unfortunate to be Himeno or Aki, considering how they're basically the only adults in the room. Kobeni's freaking out utterly and totally, and Power's just kind of laughing at her. I mean, man, if the situation was dire before, Aki is sort of determined that time isn't really moving either, so presumably they'll be trapped in here either until they die or just forever, and there definitely won't be any help coming if time's not moving. I mean, Denji, at the very least, he's looking on the bright side. I can sleep as much as I want in this nice cozy bed, and I mean, good on him for being able to sleep at a time like this. Don't know if I'd have it in me to get that relaxed. So that's really incredible, Denji seems to have slept for quite a while everybody else is just working out the problem. And I mean, he just slept through the whole thing. Nobody thought to wake him and put him to work or anything. Yeah, man, Kobeni, she's down bad. Drinking water from the toilet bowl, that's rock bottom right there. I mean, on the other hand, Power seems to be approximately as lucid as she ever is. I do find it interesting that she seems willing to go into politics, and the platform she'd be running on is a 100% sales tax. I mean, that's certainly calculated to really tick off your constituents. Can't imagine anybody would vote for a 100% sales tax, especially when it's motivated purely by spite. It's also interesting that she seems to think that she's in the running for a Nobel Prize. It's not like I know much about the Nobel Prize and all that, and all the different categories you can get one in, but, it seems to me that the Nobel Peace Prize is kind of the flimsiest one of the lot. And Power's definitely not in the running for that. So it seems like we're being treated to a little flashback here. A little bit of the introduction between Aki and Himeno. Or maybe not the introduction, that's not strictly true. They met at the graveyard. But this is sort of an early interaction between the two of them. Himeno, she's kind of an interesting character because she seems, to me, generally kind of lax about her duties and just sort of easygoing in general. And, she basically introduced smoking to Aki. That's, I mean, it's not a good habit, but I guess in her line of work, they don't exactly have a long life expectancy anyways. I mean, I guess when getting smacked by relatives and loved ones of your former partner becomes a common occurrence, I guess smoking is kind of necessary to take the edge off. So here we see, a rare impish side of Aki. Just out of, I guess, vindictiveness, he decided that sticking gum on that girl's clothes was a reasonable approach to the situation he found himself in. And juvenile though it is, why not? Better than causing a bigger scene, I suppose. Yeah, so this little relationship here developing between Aki and Himeno, it's kind of interesting because she's really trying to goad him into smoking. She's also sort of subtly insulting and complimenting him, devils really only fear devil hunters that have a screw loose, so I think you'll have a long career in this profession. The implication being that he kind of has a screw loose. And I suppose he kind of does. He has a big chip on his shoulder in regards to the gun devil. Yeah, I'd imagine that given how time isn't moving and they're not able to get out of here, running out of cigarettes if you're addicted to nicotine is decidedly not good. And what's decidedly even worse is that that little devil power killed, well, it seems not to be dead. And honestly, the way it's being animated here, it's putting me in mind of David Lynch, or not David Lynch, David Carpenter? John Carpenter. John Carpenter's The Thing from the 80s. Man, butcher those names. So this devil issues an interesting ultimatum. Basically, feed me Denji, live or dead, I don't care, and I'll let the rest of you leave. So this is the first little hint that there's something bigger going on, given that I know what I know. But just looking at this from a completely neutral perspective, this is a divisionary tactic. The devil's basically trying to get them to fight amongst themselves. He has perhaps rightly deduced that Denji's probably the most dangerous person here. So if he can get everybody else to gang up on Denji and, put him out of commission, then the others shouldn't be too big an issue to kill. Now, I gotta feel a little bad for Kobeni. She's having a rough go of things. Unfortunately, she sort of bought what the devil was saying here and tried to stab Denji, and she got battered pretty heavily for it. I mean, all things considered, she tried to, stab him to death, so she got off kind of light, but so here we have a big issue here. This devil, it seems like no matter what they do to it, no matter how they hurt it, it only grows. Yeah, so things are looking really not good. The devil's basically put them in a no-win situation where they basically have no way out unless they kill Denji. So, things are looking not particularly rosy for Denji, because The devil specified it was a contract, meaning if they kill Denji and feed his corpse to the devil, it will have to let them go by, I don't know, some abstract metaphysical legal enforcement mechanism. You know, it's not like the devil could renege on the deal even if it wanted to once the deal is made. Man, you gotta love Power. She's voting to kill Denji just because she wants to win her Nobel Prize. I mean, who's gonna break it to her? She's not gonna win a Nobel Prize. But, I mean, at least she's aiming up, right? You know, it almost seems like to her that, you know, voting to kill Denji is of no real consequence, because, you know, it was a tie vote anyways. Oh dear. So it seems like Aki might be sitting on a little ace in the hole here, you know. He seems to indicate that his sword might be able to do something, and Himeno is reticent to let him use it. Now, if this whole thing weren't bad enough, it would seem as though somebody ate all the food, and, you know, we don't even need this scene of, like, Power quickly swallowing something to know that she did it, you know. So Kobeni, she's still just freaking out, you know. She has now decided that Power is responsible for keeping everybody trapped, and that anybody trying to calm her down is also a traitor. It really is amazing how utterly hysterical she's become. I mean, it seems like she's even stabbing the dude. I mean, I guess these are, like, really extreme circumstances, but I kind of forgot how scummy isn't the right word, but how, I guess, mentally infirm Kobeni was early on. I mean, I guess it's not like Kobeni becomes remarkably resilient later on. Like, her whole kind of shtick is that she is a fairly ordinary person put in unfortunate circumstances, and she just sort of has to muddle her way through things while trying not to cry. Oh dear. Yeah, the devil's really not playing around any longer. He's decided to tilt the entire hotel just to sort of try and eat everyone. I mean, at this point, everybody's just sort of willing to throw Denji under the bus. Unfortunately, it seems like the vote is now 3, or maybe not 3, but like there's a definite majority who seems to think that Denji should probably die. It's rather unfortunate that Himeno would resort to this. I mean, when you get down to it, I think at this point, only Aki is really against killing Denji, and good on him, I suppose, for sticking to it, but man, he really threw himself in the way of that knife. I mean, if everybody else knows what's good for him, this should probably, like, shock them back to reality. It's like, you just stabbed an innocent dude. And all because you were willing to kill another innocent person just to save your own neck. So Aki's got sort of selfish reasoning here. You know, he doesn't necessarily care about Denji as a person, but the idea here is that he wants to kill the gun devil, and he needs some insane people to help him do it. And Denji qualifies. So the situation is rather interesting here. You know, Power seems to be marginally able to prevent Aki from dying. You know, it's not a given, but he likely won't bleed out now. I mean, at this point, like, anyone in a position of authority is objectively freaking out. Like, Aki's down, Himeno's freaking out, Kobeni's freaking out. The other guy, like, he's sort of out of commission. At this point, you know, there really is only one option for Denji. You know, embrace death just so you don't have to put up with everybody else. Now, Denji is very certain that he's going to win, you know. Or at the very least, he plans to win. You know, that kiss is still on offer, and, you know, if nothing else, it's a decent incentive. Now, Denji actually has some decent reasoning here. Like, the devil was crying about being injured, so if he uses his chainsaws, maybe he can hurt it until it backs off. And you know, it's not bad reasoning. Like, I'd imagine a chainsaw hurts a hell of a lot more than what it was Himeno was doing. So I guess the only question is, can he hurt the devil sufficiently before it eats him? Because he basically has to dive right down its throat. Man, that's a hell of a cliffhanger. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.